was ready. Good morning once again. Here in the main interview room, we'll be joined in just a moment by Virginia Cavaliers head coach Tony Bennett. About 10 minutes after Coach Bennett begins, Kyle Guy and Ty Jerome, student athletes from Virginia, will join us here as well. Student athletes are still available in their breakout sessions at this time, and the locker room for Virginia is still open right now with media availability for student athletes. 11:30 to 11:40, we'll have Coach Bennett. He's joining us right now. Ty Jerome and Kyle Guy will follow shortly after. The Virginia locker room is open until 11:50. Then Virginia's open practice will take place in the Arena Bowl. We're looking for questions for Coach Bennett. If you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll send a microphone steward to you. Let's start in the back, Coach. And the center, please remember your name and media outlet, then your question.
Hi, Coach. Zach Griffith, Sports Capital Journalism. I was wondering if you could kind of describe what your first Final Four has been like so far, and also what a championship would mean to you and Virginia.
Yeah, no, it's been very enjoyable. You try to have that balance of being very purposeful in your preparation for the game, but also enjoying it. And I think it's the balance. It can't be all one or all the other. And so, I've noticed that there's a few more media obligations here than some other ones. So they got us, moving pretty quick and bouncing around. But if this program could find a way to the championship, of course it would be significant, because I think it's a remarkable story for anybody who wins one. But our story is, in a way, it is unique. And so to see the resiliency and the resolve and all that's gone into this program from coaches before me, players before me, and then since I've been there, the foundation that's been laid. And, it's what you always hope for. And you see it from a distance in other programs, and then you aspire to it, and you try to build it in the way you think is best fit for where you're at, and that's what we've tried to do with all of our might.
Your favorite media obligations in the main interview room?
This is my favorite for sure, yes.
Right. Let's go to Jim up front to the right.
Thank you very much, Coach. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Jim Roop with Westwood One News. What is maybe the biggest challenge, aside from the fact that there's a basketball court in the middle of a gigantic football stadium, sight lines, depth perception, all of that? Is that something that can be easily worked through, or is that a concern at all?
The one thing, and I don't know how long they've been doing this, but they let us practice in here yesterday. And I'm not sure if that was the case. I know it wasn't, when I came as a volunteer manager 19 years ago, but I'm not sure. So the ability at least to be in here, excuse me, and have a full practice or practice for whatever we had, an hour and a half. And, you have the open practice in here. So it's hard to say. You play in the Carrier Dome. We did this year. And you play in some big places, but this is certainly unique. So I'm sure all of that's there, but I think at least having these opportunities is good. And so I don't know if that's the biggest adjustment. Again, this is my first time with the team, so we'll find out.
Second row, center.
When there's been so much talk about the Sweet 16 and getting to the Final Four, is it a challenge to make sure that no one looks past this game to the final game?
I think everybody who's made it to the Final Four is playing at a very high level. It's how it is. Same with the Sweet 16. To advance, you have to play extremely well. So each team, Auburn's won 12 in a row, and each team here has had to win tough games. So it's high level, it's possession basketball, and I think the guys understand that. Yes, it's an honor, it's a great achievement to get to a Final Four, to get to a Sweet 16, honestly. But that's what it's about, your preparation and understanding what's in front of you, and obviously you're not looking past anything. You can't do that in this tournament. Not that we did last year, but everyone's capable. That's college basketball now.
On the right side of the room, left of the aisle, Aaron.
Aaron Beard with the AP. When you get guys into your system and you're teaching them your defensive approach, what is maybe the most important thing you're trying to get them to learn right off the bat, and maybe what is the toughest thing that maybe they have to adjust to in playing the way you want to play?
I think good defenders, it's such an adjustment coming from high school to college. We always talk about our continuous. And it might have been a Bobby Knight quote that the game belongs to the continuous thinker. I think to be a really good defender, some of the best defenders I've coached, they can anticipate well. Talk about almost being in two places at once, and they stay continuous. They don't make one effort and stop or get hit on a screen. And, with the quickness and the physicality of the game as you go up another level from high school, those are the challenges that are there. And some guys come from, high school systems where they've played a different way, whether it's a zone system defensively or man-to-man. So you can kind of tell if they've been in that. But I think those two things are things that you work to get, and they come over time, that it gets better and better. But those are the challenges, I think, for your first years entering your program.
Just a reminder to all the reporters joining us, please note that you can take photos with your mobile phone, just no video. Let's go up front, center.
Hey, Tony. Josh Needleman, Charlottesville, Daily Progress. What do you see as the role of sports in communities which have dealt with tragedy?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think everyone wants to be a part of something, a story that's bigger than themselves. And I think that's what captivates the country, maybe parts of the world, this Final Four. You see the fans, of course, the teams. I mean, for us as a team, this is part of something bigger than yourself. That's what you hope for. When you can try to touch greatness in concert with others, that's our pillar of unity, what that means. But I think when this happens and you see, runs like this, it does captivate a university, a town, a community, because it's part of a story bigger than yourself, and that's, I think, a beautiful thing, and I think it's powerful, and it helps heal some wounds if there have been hard things. This world is not always a great place, so if sports can bring joy, if a run like this can bring joy to a community, then that's using it in the right way. Certainly we see sometimes where it gets out of whack, but I think that story and being part of it, I think, is what is special about this. And, I'm hopeful that that's taking place for all the teams that are here for their communities, but certainly for the Charlottesville and the UVA community, because we've been through stuff. And I think these young men are trying to represent our program in the right way.
Coach, let's go to the left side toward the back. Nancy.
Armor USA Today Sports.
Yes.
You have 5 red shirts on your team, which is a little more than you typically see. Can you walk through what the process is and how you decide to redshirt a guy or not, and why you think it's so beneficial for both them and for your team?
Yeah, I think programs over the years, when I was at Wisconsin as an assistant for my father and even Coach Ryan, that's a good formula for how we've tried to build programs to get them mature. My philosophy with red shirts is when they come in, there's maybe some guys in the recruiting process you say this could be beneficial on the front end, but it's always up to the player. If that's something they don't want to do, then we don't. But I'll always give my advice and say, this would be the benefits of redshirting. Here's what's going to happen. It'll be hard, but here's how you're going to grow in your game and physically. Here are your opportunities right now that I see playing, early on. So I think it's a real candid conversation between your player and the coaching staff and the family, and say it's always in your court what you want to do. Here's my advice, and I'll go whatever you want, whichever way you want. I think that's important, at least for us. And then we've had, again, whether it's through injuries or transfers or just we think it's best, the red shirts, that year of maturity, you're just a better player. Every year you put into your game, into your mind, that just makes you better and more mature. And I think Coach Bray at Notre Dame, I heard him say it, his goal is get old, stay old. When he said that, I kind of smiled because, that's always been, I watched the formula. Can you get to those upperclassmen years so they can play against, some of the teams in our league with the super talent that are first years?
Coach, we're going to stay on that same side of the room, left side.
Hey, Coach Bennett. Sean Brown, CBN, right out of Virginia Beach. How are you? Congratulations.
Thank you.
You've spoken a lot about your faith in Christ and how it helps you prepare day in and day out as a head coach of this organization, of this team. How significant has it been for you, just keeping your mind and then trying to translate that down to your players?
Yeah, no, it's really important. Yesterday I said there's a verse that says, always be prepared to give a reason for the hope that you have, but do it with gentleness and respect. And I think that's what you have to do. I know what my hope is for me. I know what my life is grounded on, and there's nothing that touches it. It's a joy that's unspeakable. And so when you have players, our program is built on pillars, 5. They're actually biblical pillars. And whether our guys, I'm always respectful, whether they believe that or not, their wisdom for our program. Humility, do you know who you are as a team and as a player? Passion, do you play with passion? Unity, being part of something bigger than yourself. Servanthood, the way to greatness is for being a servant, and then thankfulness. So we use those for our team specifically. And again, you know, your always hope is that you guys, through sports, they become better players and young men, and they'll always return to what you just model to them. And so again, I know what matters in my life and my family's, and I try to be faithful to that and respect everyone else. That's, I guess, how I look at that. Thank you.
Coach, let's move to the right side. David.
David Teal with the Daily Press. Tony, what are your primary memories of 2000 at the Final Four with Wisconsin and your dad? And how cool is it to join the Thompsons as the only father-son combination coaching to reach this stage?
There's some great memories I have with my dad, and I knew his dream was to one day coach in a Final Four and perhaps win it, and to be a part of seeing him reach that dream, beating Purdue, ironically, in the Elite Eight. I stand in awe of that because, you know, when you see others experience a great desire accomplished, it's in a way it's sweeter. So that memory was incredible. And you know, unfortunately, they played Michigan State the year they won it for the 4th time, and that was a beast playing that team and Coach Izzo's squad. But phenomenal memory, and you know, again, I just remember standing back and watching him take it in, and those guys, that Wisconsin team was special. They were more of a, you know, a surprise. They were a 8 seed in how they went through and what they did, and it was so unexpected, and how they embraced it. So, was there anything else you asked on that today?
David, let's get you the microphone.
Okay.
Just about joining the Thompsons as the only
joining the
father-son.
Thompsons. Yeah, I knew there was some. I remember when we were playing Syracuse in the Elite Eight a few years ago, and someone told me that, you know, if you guys get through, you will be the second father-son, you know, combination to coach different teams to the Final Four. And I thought that would be sweet. You know, I thought that would be. I mean, it's not the biggest thing in the world, but I thought that would be really cool. And just to be able to share that with my dad, whether we were the 10th group to do it and being only the second, makes you realize it's hard to get there. And there's so many great coaches, fathers and sons who've coached at this level who are great coaches and just haven't had the fortune to do it. But yeah, to be in that company, because obviously those are great coaches, and to say we can do it together. Now he can't look at me and say, I'm one up on you, son. So at least I got that. There's no bragging rights on his part now.
Couple rows back left of the aisle.
Tony, Hondo Carpenter from Spartan Nation. The other day, and I'm not in any way looking past your game with Auburn, but the other day Tom Izzo was gleeful about you making it and how much respect he has for you and your family and how close he is. I'm just curious, to be at your first Final Four and share it with somebody who's so close to your family, how special is that just to have him here?
Yeah, we've had some wars, but I have the utmost respect. I played for Judd Heathcote in the Olympic Festival in 1989. When I was at Green Bay as a player, Steve Smith hit a last-second 3 to knock us out of the NCAA tournament. And I've followed Coach Izzo, and I've learned a lot from him. Last year when we got beat by UMBC, and I think they got beat in the second round by Syracuse, if I'm not mistaken, he called me. And we talked on the phone for a while, and he was unbelievable. And I think he's maybe the best, one of the best minds the game has seen, and I've learned so much. But you know, my father, I think when he was a coach, Tom was playing in the UP up, you know, and so it goes way back. And I have, again, he's been great to me, and when people are kind to you in hard moments, you remember that. And again, of course, how can you not respect what he's done with his program? So I'm very thankful for that. And the coaching fraternity is, it's unique. We know the battles we go through, and then when you can rejoice when someone rejoices, that's really cool, and I'm glad to hear that and thankful for him.
Toward the back of the room on the right side, please raise your hand.
Hey, Tony. Zach Peerless, Augusta Free Press. Jack played 10 minutes in the first 3 games of this tournament combined. Then he played 34 against Purdue. And you've had a lot of guys who have, you know, seen their roles fluctuate. How impressed have you been with their ability to take the role that they're given and excel in it, especially a guy like Jack, who you really needed in that Purdue game?
For sure. His physicality and the way he played was significant. That's been the case with Braxton and Jay Huff throughout the year. And I know how hard that is. And I said, I understand that, fellas. But, of course, it's the idea of staying ready. But here's, it's funny, before the Purdue game, I mentioned to the team in our hotel when we did our walkthrough, I said, here's a guy who's a fifth-year senior who started and played a lot, and all of a sudden now his role has been reduced, and we don't know how much he'll play. I said, and I watch him. I said, he's encouraging you guys on the bench. He's telling you to stay in it. And I remember talking to him, and he said, Coach, I just want to advance. Whatever you think is best. Yeah, it's hard to not play, but whatever is best for the team. That's why this program's been good. We have guys, that embodies our pillar of servanthood. Make others better. Know your role, make others better. He embodies that. He has been the glue. Isaiah Wilkins the years before, and I can go down the road. And so when you're fortunate to coach young men who have that kind of resolve and character, they make the team go. And you have to have a bunch of those, and we've been fortunate, and Jack is, I think, a great one for that.
On the left side, midway back, Mike.
Yeah, Tony, Mike Barber, Richmond Times-Dispatch. The players were talking about maybe a lot of the guys on this roster being under-recruited or you getting into them early. Do you feel like this team carries a little bit of maybe a chip on the shoulder is the term they use because some of them had to prove themselves at this level?
I think that's so important. We're fortunate to find guys that are better than people think. And, yeah, I think that, I go back through it with the Joe Harris, even at Malcolm, these two guys early on, and that matters. Whether they have 4 stars, 5 stars, or whatever the rankings are, that stuff's insignificant, especially in basketball. It's more what do they do when they get there and how do they develop. So I think we always try to find guys that are sneaky good. That's the word we try to use and go after them. And sometimes they're coming in, like you said, exactly, with that hunger and in the right mindset, and I think that's important.
We're joined now by student-athletes from Virginia, Ty Jerome and Kyle Guy, and we're going to continue with questions for Coach Bennett and for our student-athletes. Mike, you want to follow?
Tony, if I could just follow real quick. As you've won more and more and gotten to the point that the program's at, have you been in on higher-ranked recruits? Do you see the talent level rising year to year?
I think as your team has success, you're able to there's some non-negotiables you don't compromise, but then you do definitely get involved with guys that have that. But you have to be careful because you can get seduced into maybe again compromising certain areas. But for sure, that's the ideal. Guys that care about their education, but that they want to be good, they want to be part of something great. That's what we're trying to do and find. And recruiting, my staff has been unbelievable. In the season, I'm so locked into these guys. I go out some, and I'm involved. But my staff over the years get the huge assist on that. And without them and then the guys believing in something special, we wouldn't be in this spot.
Questions for Coach Bennett and Kyle and Ty, left side front.
Doug Dowdy, the Roanoke Times again. You may have, I think you've alluded to it before, but the support of your former players or former Virginia players from before your time. Rick Carlisle, for instance, I understand he picked up a tab last night. How much has it?
Not for me. I don't know. No.
How much have you? Do you hear from those former players?
We have great. They'll come back. They'll work out with their guys. Work out with Coach Curtis. You just see it. It's nonstop from Joe Harris to Malcolm. The list goes on and on. I think it's significant. I really do. I remember Coach Carlisle called me after last year, and he just talked about be very intentional about everything you do in the fall, the summer, the fall, about putting these guys, make pressure your friend, address it, do things. So that was so helpful. He's one of the best coaches. He addressed our team. I don't know if these guys were here. He spoke at like a commencement thing, so yeah, Ralph Sampson being around. We're very fortunate. Coach Holland, those who've gone before us, and then the guys that have played in our program. They were the building blocks. They were the guys that laid the great foundation, and so are these guys, and they're building on it with the right stuff.
On the right side toward the front,
How about some
Ralph?
questions for the student athletes?
Well, this can be for both. Ralph Russo from the Associated Press. The simple premise in this game is Virginia likes to play deliberate, sort of methodical. Auburn likes to play sort of fast and frenetic. Do you have to win the pace to win the game? And the players can chime in too.
Ty, you want to give us a couple thoughts on that? Then Kyle will give Coach a break, and then if Coach wants to conclude with a couple thoughts on that, we'll go that way. Ty, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we definitely have opposites playing styles. You know, keeping them out of transition will be a huge key. Keeping them out of the paint will be a huge key. Taking care of the ball will be a huge key. But it's just the same thing we do every game. You know, just trying to make them take a tough shot and win the majority of the possessions.
Kyle, your thoughts?
Yeah, we're not going to compromise on how we play, but at the same time, our style of play is just to win. So, you know, we can score with the best in the country and we can defend with the best in the country. So whatever it takes to win is what's most important.
Coach, you good with those two? Or?
I think that's great.
Sounds good. Let's go a little bit further back to the left of the aisle.
This is for Tony, JerryRackliff.com. It took a long time to find out if Braxton was going to be eligible this season. Can you talk about his role, how important it's been, and how much have you picked his brain about Auburn?
Very important. Yeah, we had to wait. The question was asked before about Jack Salt, and I said Jack and Jay and Braxton. It's kind of been sometimes they're out there for a while, sometimes they're not. And you need that depth. He's stepped up at major times to give us been a difference in games. And yeah, no, he understands the SEC and the athleticism of it and the pace of play. And we have talked about it. And I know he's probably talked to the guys, but really thankful that he got the waiver and could give us be able to play this year. And so his understanding of his role, and as challenging as that is sometimes when it's limited, and then there's more. That's hard as a player. But he's been a great addition, and I'm glad he's not redshirting this year and we have him.
Questions for Coach or the student athletes up front?
Needleman, Charlottesville Daily Progress. Kyle, I asked Tony about this earlier, but I'm interested in your perspective too. What do you see as the role of sports in communities which have had tragedies?
I assume you're alluding to the KKK rally that happened last year. Yeah, I think sports have a profound impact on communities and townships and whatnot. Because you can really rally around something and all believe in something, the same thing, if you have different points of views and whatnot. So I think basketball, football, lacrosse, like all of our sports did a great job of trying to take a stand against that and stand up for what's right.
Back of the room, right of the aisle.
Zach Peerless, Augusta Free Press. You guys had a game against NC State where it was close at the end. You guys went to overtime, and it was a game where NC State tried to press you all 94 feet, really get up into you defensively. Auburn, do you see any similarities between them and Auburn? And then what did you learn from that game that maybe you can apply here?
Let's let Ty take that, then Kyle.
We played NC State more recently, too. It was a completely different outing. But, yeah, Auburn's definitely similar to them in a way. They'll pressure you. They're probably a little more talented offensively, a few more shooters, so they'll present a more difficult challenge in that way. But, yeah, it'll be a dogfight.
Kyle, your thoughts?
Yeah, again, I think it's a testament that we're going to have to take care of the ball. I think we had like 15 or 16 turnovers the first time we played NC State, and then significantly less than the second time we played them. So unfortunately, we won't have two chances at Auburn, so we're just going to have to be disciplined in what we know how to do.
To the left of the aisle, Mark.
Mark Herman from Newsday in New York for Kyle and Ty, and maybe Tony too. As shooters, how do you prepare to play in this environment? The background and everything is so different from everything you're used to. The guys usually seem to shoot pretty well here. How do you get used to it?
Ty first, then Kyle.
I'm going to give this one to Kyle first because shoot.
Kyle first, then Ty.
As a shooter, obviously you have to be confident in yourself, and your teammates have to be confident in you. And with that confidence, it doesn't matter where you're shooting. You could be shooting at, Rucker Park in Harlem, or you could be shooting in a football stadium. You just have to have confidence, and obviously it's very nice that we get to practice here twice, so we can kind of get a feel for it. But when the ball is tipped, it doesn't matter what the backdrop is. It just we prepared for this, and we're going to be ready.
Yeah, like Kyle said, it's just you got to be confident no matter where you're playing at, and it's just about focusing on the things in the game you can control. So, and just when you shoot, you just stay confident about it, but you can't think about it.
Coach Bennett's got an answer for that, Dulce.
They cut me off, huh? It's all those things, but get good shots. You know, can your offense take care of the ball, get good shots, and then you take the good shots. That's always a goal for any team. Can we, you know, yeah, of course you want to make them, but can we first get the good shots? But as Kyle said, we talked about being in here a couple times and shooting. It is what it is. But
let's finish up front on the right side.
Yeah, hi, George Schroeder with USA Today. In relation to the shots, not so much about the background, but Tony, I wonder, there have been more three-pointers made in this tournament than ever before, and it was actually set early in the Sweet 16. It's shot way past it. You've got three games left. I wonder if you have a thought on the proliferation, why that is, and you know, just kind of what that means to the game, how it's changed.
This part of the question, you said that just the.
Let's get that front right microphone.
There have been more three-pointers made in this tournament than in any previous tournament.
I think it's following the trend. You know, even at the NBA, I think guys now can shoot at such deep range. A lot of times it's 4 guys on the floor or 5 guys. And, you know, the three ball, just from what Golden State has done and other teams. And then in the college game, it's creeping down and you're seeing it. Again, guys can shoot it off the bounce. Guys shoot. The range amazes me. Obviously, what these guys can do, what Carson Edwards did. You're watching Auburn's players. So it's just become a huge part of the game. And what Villanova did last year, all those things. So I think it's a trend for sure.
We'd like to thank Coach Bennett, Kyle Guy, and Ty Jerome for joining us here in the main interview room. The Virginia locker room is now closed as well. They're going to head out to the Arena Bowl for their open practice. Fellas, we hope you enjoy that. Good luck tomorrow night.
Thank you.
Yeah, 1 second. Next up at 12:15, the